It's not common, it wasn't common in the British Isles to see birds. In fact, it was very uncommon to see birds. Birds lived on the land of the gods and goddesses. They lived in Tir Nanab, which meant the land of the goddesses and gods. It also meant the land of the eternal living. And the birds lived there as messengers of the gods and goddesses and only came to earth to deliver messages of hope and joy. Well, it was also known that this land of the gods and goddesses was the land of the eternal living because once someone died, they were transported to Tir Nanab. And they came there and had two choices. One, they would forget all of the experiences they had while living, and they would be able to be eternally young. Or they would remember their experiences on earth, and they would live underground, but they would be able to hold those memories and share them with others. So, the people up on top of the land, those people who were eternally young, who had no memory, enjoyed the present moment all the time, because that's all they could do. And the people that lived underground would gather in circles, telling stories about their life and their experiences, and the things that they got to enjoy while they had their life. Well, the goddess Bridget, who was the keeper of the fire, loved storytelling. So she loved to go underground and hear the stories, and she noticed that the people underground were often very cold because there was no sun that reached the people underground. So she wanted to make them a little happier because she wanted to enjoy their stories. And so she brought the flame down to the people in their circles. And of course the birds loved the stories also. And so as she went down to the underground and listened to the stories, birds came with her to hear those stories. And one little bird in particular, called Redstart, loved those stories. When Redstart wasn't listening to the stories, Redstart was on the top of the branches of the tallest trees, looking out beyond the void, looking at the land of Earth. And there, she saw people who were very sad and very despondent and very, very cold, because this is the Highlands, and in the winter it was very cold. Now, they had no fire. They had no way to keep warm. And so the little bird felt sorry for them. And she went to the goddess Bridget, and she asked if she might be able to bring a spark of fire to the people on Earth. And the goddess looked at the little bird and said, "Oh, you are so selfless, so kind and compassionate. Yes, I'll allow you to bring a spark of fire to the people of Earth. Come here near the fire." So the redstart landed right at the edge of the fire, and the goddess Bridget picked up a spark and laid it on the redstart bird's tail. The tail glowed gold yellow and bright red. And the redstart, so happy with its mission, took off, flying across the void to the land of Islay. And there, the first thing she saw was a man stumbling around the rocks looking for crab. She thought that he looked a little desperate, but she thought maybe this is the person I should give this gift of fire to. The goddess Bridget told me to only give it to someone who is selfless and compassionate and kind. I wonder if this man could be selfless and compassionate and kind. So she watched him for a moment, and she realized that he did seem very desperate. In fact, he was searching and searching for crab, and all he seemed to want was to quiet the grumbling in his stomach. So she thought, no, this is not the person I should give this to. So she flew off to the forest, and there she found a hunter. A hunter. He knows the voices of the forest. He'll understand. So the little bird started to sing her song, telling him that she's come with a gift for the people of Earth. On her tail was a wee spark of fire, and that fire, if tended, would grow. It might seem to be a very small gift, but it would grow to be something very magnificent. Well, the hunter looked at the bird and thought, I don't want a small gift, and he took out his sling, and he attacked the little bird, and she flew up into the sky, knowing that this also was not a compassionate, kind, senseless person. Well, the little bird didn't know what to do, so she flew back up to the top of the trees. She sat there for a while, Soon she saw a wise old owl. And she asked the owl what she should do. She told him her story and said that I'm carrying this flame and I want to give it to the people of Earth so that they're warm. And the goddess Bridget told me to only give it to someone who is compassionate and selfless and kind. But I haven't been able to find anyone. And the owl said, well, that sounds like you need help. I'll call the other birds. And the owl hooted. And birds came all around, landing on branches, all around the little redstart. The owl said to the birds, this little redstart has a gift for the people, a gift of fire. But she can't find anyone who's compassionate and kind and selfless to give it to. We need to help her. We need to help her with this mission. And so the birds took off all over the land telling people, searching for someone who is selfless and kind and compassionate. Soon many, many men came to where the little bird was, all professing that they were the one, claiming they were the most selfless and the most kind and the most compassionate in the land, and this gift of fire should be given to them. Well, they began arguing with each other, one trying to outdo the other, saying they were there first and they were kinder. Well, soon the arguments turned into fighting, and the little bird didn't know what to do, so the bird took off and flew as fast and as hard as she could until she became so tired that she could no longer flap those wings. She stopped at a beautiful garden, laid down to sleep. And soon a little girl came skipping by, and she saw the little redstart bird with the glowing tail. She picked the bird up and put her in her apron. Mama will surely know what to do, she thought, so she skipped home, gently holding that little bird. And when she got home, she told her mother, well, her mother was breastfeeding the baby, and so her mother told her what to do to make that little bird more comfortable. And then the little bird spoke to the mother, saying, I have a gift, and I don't know who to give it to. I'm looking for someone who's selfless and kind and compassionate, and you seem to be that. Knowing how to take care of me, it sure is nice to have someone care for me. Are you selfless and kind and compassionate? And the mother said, me? Selfless, kind, and compassionate? Are you kidding? I don't have the time. Between taking care of my husband, all of my children, this baby, and the one on the way, I don't have time to do anything. In springtime, I have to sow and plant. In summer, I have to tend the weeds and take care of the animals in the pasture. In fall, I have to harvest. And if I have anything left over, if we have a good crop, I share that bounty with my neighbors and people who have less. And then in winter, I have to can and cure and weave and stitch and make clothing and shoes for my large family. I don't have time to think about others. I don't have time to be selfless and compassionate and kind. Well, the little bird knew better than that. So then the mother, and oh, by the way, while the mother was saying all that, she was also tending baby, taking care of a toddler who had just fallen down, who was crying, peeling the vegetables for dinner, and also looking after all of the children. One of the babies started to cry, so the mother said, I need to go take care of that child. And the bird looked at the little girl who had brought her in and said, do you think that perhaps you can get me some twigs? The little girl said, of course. So she ran out to the woods and came back with an armful of twigs and branches. And then the little bird said to the girl, do you think maybe you can find me something that's dry and soft? And the little bird said, of course. And she ran back out to the woods and came back with dry grass and white goose down. And then the little bird said, one more thing. Do you think perhaps you can form a nest for me? So the little girl shook her head and she created a small nest out of the wood and the sticks and the branches. And then she put the down and the dry grass in the middle of the nest. Well, the redstart hopped over to the nest, jumped in and flicked her tail. And the dry down and grass caught fire. And the fire blazed, a beautiful gold, yellow, and red. And the children ran over and held their hands to the fire. They were warmed by the fire. The mother came and she was astonished. For by this time, the little red start had flown up into the rafters, very satisfied, because she delivered fire to someone who indeed was selfless and kind and compassionate. And so proud of her behavior and her action accomplishing her mission, she flew back to Tignanor. And she told the goddess Bridget what she had done. And the goddess was very, very proud of her. And so she said, I'm going to reward you. She reached into the fire and grabbed another bit of flame and touched that brown tail of the small red start. And the tail grew long and beautifully colored, yellow and orange and red, colors of flame. And from that day to this, the red start has a beautiful, colorful tail. But that's not all. That mother, she listened to what the bird had told her. She wanted to share that abundance and that beautiful flame with her neighbors. So she told all of them, come and bring a stick. Take a flame back to your heart. And if it wasn't for the goddess Bridget, that little red start bird, a mother and her daughter, Earth would have no fire.